Thomas, and I was in the U.S. Navy from 61 to 63, and I believed that I was serving my country then, and I realized later that I was serving my government. And I was part of the blockade around the island of Cuba in 1962, which almost, as some of you know, led to the war to end all wars, literally. So when we were we were on station around the island of Cuba, and we heard the message from President Kennedy. We were headed down to Puerto Rico to play war games. You know, that's what the military does, doing war games, right? Preparing for the next war. And we got the message to turn around and go back to somewhere. And then we heard the next morning Kennedy's speech. And then we were on station as part of the blockade. By the way, my ship was called the USS Okinawa. It was a helicopter carrier. Not as big as an aircraft carrier, but we could carry a lot of troops, Marines. All right. I forgot where we were.
You were saying you were on the Okinawa.
Oh, yeah, right.
And it was a helicopter.
It was a helicopter carrier. And we got the orders after about 2 weeks to go to Mayport, Florida. And we got off there, and we loaded ammunition all day and food. And then 2,000 Marines came on board, and we were told to stay away from them because they were primed to, psychologically, to invade Cuba. So if they wanted to cut in front of us in the chow line, by all means. So all they did was eat, sleep, clean their rifles, and do PT up on the flight deck. But the officers, I was with the Operations Intelligence Division, radar people. And the officers, most of them were talking about, Jesus, this is going to be great. We're going to invade Cuba. We're going to get promotions. It's going to be, glorious. It's going to be just freaking wonderful. All these advancement, promotions, medals. And that was my first exposure to militarism. And I was 19. And I thought these guys were crazy. Okay? So, again, the 1% driving the 99%. But Richard has another story. Oh, the end of my story is, you know what happened. Kennedy and Khrushchev had a little bit up here, and they decided that they shouldn't blow up the world and kill their own children, as well as the rest of them.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, Khrushchev started that little correspondence, writing to Kennedy privately, without the knowledge of anyone, done secretly through diplomatic channels.
This is Richard Murphy.
Yeah, and Kennedy and Khrushchev were writing each other. That's only come out the last 10 years.
Yeah. Richard's a combat veteran, Vietnam, 1969, 1970. Yeah. What's your story?
1968.
68.
I grew up here in Manchester. I grew up believing the United States of America was the greatest country, that we were altruistic, we helped the world, and I went to Vietnam with that in mind. I volunteered. I had 2 years in college. I was doing all right, C+ average, didn't get drafted, so I volunteered. I went, it didn't take me 3 weeks on the ground in Vietnam to realize that we weren't wanted there. Just any infantry got that feeling pretty rapidly. You realize you didn't have to get shot at to get it.
Yeah.
You realize we were not wanted in Vietnam by the people of Vietnam, who I thought we were there to help.
Right. Yeah.
And then, of course, the rest of it was combat, and that's nothing nobody ever wants to go through. And so that's why I do this, because I started doing this before the war. In Afghanistan was started. They heard it was going to be started. So I started working for Vets for Peace, because I don't want anybody going through the type of things that soldiers go through in such situations that the United States government sends them, like Afghanistan, like Iraq, like Vietnam, like Central America, when we've been down there plenty of times, like Colombia, all these different places where we send soldiers to do jobs that they don't really want to do.
Yeah.
Richard, you got the statement of purpose,
Yeah,
and one of the reasons why Vets for Peace support the Occupy movement, our national organization has taken a position on that. And one of course, I could point out to you Scott Olson for one reason, the Vet for Peace and the member of Iraq Vets Against the War, who was hit in the head with a tear gas canister, and other vets. And now some of you may know the Boston Vets Smedley Butler Brigade in Massachusetts, who stood around the Occupy Boston folks as a protective shield,
Yeah.
and they were just tossed aside by the police when the first raid occurred there.
Right.
So, but Richard, we have a statement of purpose which pretty much explains why we are supporting the Occupy movement, because we are part of the 99% as well.
I just like reading anything to an audience because I can't remember it myself, so I'm going to have to hear it.
Oh, all right.
Veterans for Peace. We're about increasing public awareness of the costs of war, to restrain our government from intervening overtly or covertly in the internal affairs of other nations, to end the arms race and reduce the eventually eliminate nuclear weapons, to seek justice for veterans and victims of war, and to abolish war as an instrument of national policy.
Yeah.
So, intervening either overtly or covertly in the affairs of other countries, that's our foreign policy, particularly since the end of World War II.
Right.
Okay?
Pull it away a little bit.
To the tune of over 200 invasions. Most of us don't even know them.
Nah, not all 200. I mean, I know we were involved. Like you said, we keep going back in and out of places. Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that we send troops that we're supposed to agree when we send people to foreign countries. We don't even know what it is.
Right.
Most of the time.
Right.
If you folks back there want some of these, we have newspapers, we have some of these materials here you may want to take. But look, we have posters here. We wanted to quiz you. Where's the first poster, Richard? Over here? Yeah. The first poster, right here. Okay. Here's a quiz. Iran, 1953. What happened? Okay, go ahead.
Central Intelligence Agency initiated Operation Ajax to overthrow Mohammad Mossadegh, the democratically elected president of Iran, on the specious argument that he was communist because he wanted to keep 51% of Iran's oil local nation.
As opposed to going to BP, the British. Right.
I think it was called something else.
Yeah, something else.
So did they install the Shah right at?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Shah of Iran.
That's the answer we've ever received.
That worked out well.
And of course, the coup was spearheaded by the grandson of Teddy Roosevelt, Kermit Roosevelt, working for the CIA. Okay. And you ever heard of a term called blowback? Blowback? Chalmers Johnson, the unintended consequences of U.S. foreign policy decisions. And you can translate it another way as saying, basically, ye reap what ye sow.
Yeah, right.
And we have sown, unfortunately, and that would include, in our opinion, we don't condone 9/11, certainly it's not justified, but that's part of blowback.
I wonder if our history major knows the name of the officer that was sent to run the Savak, the Iranian.
Oh, I don't know that, but I do know we set it up and supported it, and it led to deaths of thousands.
Would it surprise you to know that his name was Norman O. Schwarzkopf?
Oh, really?
The father of the general that we sent to
wow.
Iraq. Well, the first Persian Gulf War. Okay.
Guatemala.
The thing is that none of us know anything about Norman O. Schwarzkopf. But everybody in Iraq, in Iran, they know about this guy.
Yeah.
Because they
Well, it
know
looks
about
terrible from their point of view. It looks like their dynasty is coming over there and screwing them every 20 years.
But the blowback from 53 was, what's the blowback? What
we have now.
what happened in 79?
Iranian
The revolution.
Yeah.
And people wondered in this country, how could they so horrible to keep those people in the embassy for over a year? Well, wait a minute. What do you think about 1953, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's sad to say that our history here is not known. Other countries' peoples know their history and about our
Far
interventions.
better than we do.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the blowback was 79, and by the way, you all know that we're ramping up for an invasion attack on Iran, as dictated to us by the Israeli High Command.
Now, do you think they're trying to set up some kind of incident with what's going on over there now?
In the Straits of Hormuz,
Yeah.
it appears to be.
That's making me nervous.
It sounds like the Gulf of Tonkin all over again,
yeah.
and many other fabricated incidents.
Yeah.
We're pretty good at that.
Yeah.
And we're speaking as vets who served our whole country, although we served our government more
Right.
and the corporation.
Yeah.
And that's why we are supportive of the Occupied movement. Well, Guatemala. You know that one?
Jacobo Arbenz.
Okay, Arbenz.
What is that?
Yeah.
Guy's name?
That's the head of the country, president. We overthrew him, and about 40,000 people ended up dying.
First democratically elected president.
What did we send the Marines in? What?
It was the CIA.
The CIA?
training people, supplying people,
They bombed them.
and using our planes. And the result, the blowback, of course, was the installation of one dictator after another, with the deaths of maybe as many as, I think, 200,000 Guatemalan peasants, for the most part, teachers, professors, some priests, nuns, just like
Were
El
they
Salvador.
trying to organize?
Yes,
Why they
yes.
got killed? Trying
Yeah.
to organize labor?
The 99% were trying their best, and I know of one priest, Catholic priest, who was teaching literacy, and when the people, the campesinos, started to be able to read and discuss things, they kicked the priest out.
Yeah.
Lucky for him, right? He wasn't killed like so many others were, including Archbishop Oscar Romero, although he was Salvadoran. So the blowback is the continued oppression of the people, and the government we support it continuously and still support it, like El Salvador. Okay, Cuba, 61.
Operation Mongoose.
Okay, what's Operation Mongoose?
It was a plan that Kennedy approved of, even though it began in the development of the Eisenhower.
Correct.
To train Cubans, for the most part, but also South American activists, to teach them how to take down airplanes, teach them how to set up bombs, teach them how to do death squads, with the intent of eventually, not immediately, but eventually, after several years of death and destruction, to foment a popular uprising to overthrow the government.
Right. Thank you. That's pretty clear. And then the blowback was the Castro receives an invitation or help, assistance from the Soviet Union.
Well, he needed to defend himself.
Yeah, and that Soviet Union, that's why they sent in the nukes. If Cuba had nukes, perhaps he wouldn't have died like we did at the Bay of Pigs in April of '61. So, and then of course we've been blockading Cuba ever since.
Ever since, yeah.
Chile, 9/11, 1973, 9/11. Nobody else? Hold on.
Well, I know that's when Aristide was taken out.
Allende, yeah.
Taken out? Like taken out how?
Well, there's some dispute about whether he was killed or committed suicide.
Okay.
The best evidence now indicates he may have committed suicide.
Yeah.
Because they were probably tortured him and killed him eventually.
So what do we do? Install a government in Chile?
Yeah, Kissinger and Nixon.
It's uncertain. There's evidence that goes both ways. No documents have come to light that conclusively prove we were on the ground with our assets, actively trying to overthrow the government of Allende. But we have a memo from Henry Kissinger to the U.S. ambassador for Chile saying, basically, it is the policy of the United States